In 1969, a Mexican immigrant with a unique vision stepped onto the Woodstock stage. 9 minutes later, rock music would never be the same. Carlos Santana had fused Latin rhythms with psychedelic rock in a way no one had ever heard before. But how did this cultural outsider manage to revolutionize American music? The answer lies in the streets of San Francisco, where a new sound was about to be born. From mariachi to misery, Santana's uprooted childhood. Carlos Santana's first guitar came from his father, Jose, when he was just 5 years old. This gift marked the start of a tumultuous childhood for the young musician. Born in 1947 in Outlan, Mexico, Carlos was immersed in music from an early age. His father, a mariachi violinist, introduced him to traditional Mexican sounds. Jose's musical ambitions soon led the family to Tijuana, a bustling border town with a reputation for its nightlife. The move was jarring for young Carlos. The familiar sights and sounds of his small hometown were replaced by a city teeming with tourists and desperate souls. For a sensitive boy barely into his teens, it was a harsh awakening. At just 13 years old, Carlos began playing guitar in Tijuana's strip clubs to help support his family. Night after night, he witnessed the dark underbelly of adult entertainment. The raw emotions he observed in those dimly lit venues influenced his playing, infusing his music with a depth beyond his years. As Carlos honed his skills, his father pushed him relentlessly, seeing his son's talent as a ticket to a better life. This pressure, combined with the unsavory environment, took its toll on the teenager. Carlos later recalled feeling conflicted between his love for music and the harsh realities of his surroundings. The family's next move to San Francisco loomed on the horizon. For Carlos, it represented a chance to pursue his true passion in a thriving music scene. However, he couldn't have known the challenges that lay ahead in the city by the bay. These early experiences in Tijuana left an indelible mark on Santana's musical style. The soulful wails of his guitar and the Latin rhythms that would later define his sound were forged in those clubs. He learned to channel raw emotion into his playing, a skill that would set him apart from his peers in the years to come. As the Santana family prepared for their move to California, Carlos stood on the cusp of a new chapter. His journey to musical stardom was just beginning, but the struggles of his youth would continue to shape his art and his outlook on life. Struggling in San Francisco, a dishwasher's dream. In San Francisco, Carlos Santana's dreams of musical stardom collided with harsh reality. The city's famous hills felt like mountains of struggle for the 13-year-old guitarist who arrived in 1961. Unable to speak English and without connections in the local music scene, Carlos found himself adrift in an alien world. The Santana family's move was meant to be a fresh start, but financial hardships forced Carlos to put his guitar dreams on hold. He took a job as a dishwasher at a local diner, his calloused fingers pruning in soapy water as he scrubbed pots and pans. The rhythmic clanging of dishes became a poor substitute for the melodies he longed to create. Despite the setbacks, Carlos refused to abandon his musical ambitions. In his spare time, he haunted San Francisco's music clubs, soaking in the sounds of blues and rock. He'd stand outside venues, listening to muffled guitar solos and imagining himself on stage. Breaking into the scene, however, proved challenging. Cultural barriers and discrimination presented significant obstacles. Many club owners and fellow musicians dismissed Carlos as just another Mexican immigrant, overlooking his talent. These experiences fueled his determination to prove his doubters wrong. Carlos's perseverance paid off when he met other young musicians who shared his passion for blending different musical styles. In 1966, he formed the Santana Blues Band, experimenting with a unique fusion of Latin rhythms, African beats, and blues rock. Their early performances in small clubs and community centers slowly began to attract attention. As word spread about the band's innovative sound and Carlos's electrifying guitar solos, he was finally able to leave his dishwashing days behind. However, the road ahead remained challenging. The music industry's fickleness and the band's unconventional style made it difficult to secure gigs and gain recognition from record labels. Carlos and his bandmates faced an uphill battle, enduring long nights, meager pay, and constant uncertainty. They struggled to make a living as musicians, their unique blend of styles not fitting neatly into any established genre. Little did Carlos know that his greatest challenge and his biggest opportunity was just around the corner. A music festival in upstate New York would soon catapult Santana from obscurity to international stardom, but the path to that fateful day was paved with hardship and relentless perseverance. Santana's revolution wasn't just about adding Latin rhythms to rock, it was about fundamentally changing how rock music approached rhythm itself. By making percussion instruments like congas and timbales equal to the guitar, he created a new template for rock bands. The fusion of Afro-Cuban rhythms with psychedelic rock opened doors for countless musicians who wanted to incorporate their cultural heritage into mainstream rock music. The Woodstock gamble, high stakes and higher anxiety. As Santana arrived at Woodstock, the enormity of the event hit him. Hundreds of thousands of people had gathered at Max Yasgur's farm, creating a sea of humanity that stretched endlessly. The pressure was immense for Carlos and his bandmates, unknowns slated to perform alongside rock's biggest names. Carlos made his way to the stage, his mind reeling. "God, please help me stay in time and in tune," he silently pleaded. Armed with his Gibson SG Special and a Fender Twin amplifier, Santana had developed a sound unlike anything in rock music. His guitar tone, characterized by its supernatural sustain and crying quality, was achieved by pushing his amp to its limits. This combination, along with his masterful control of feedback, created what would become known as the Santana sound, a voice-like quality that seemed to soar over the Latin rhythms beneath it. As the band launched into their set, Carlos's fingers moved across his guitar strings with surprising precision. The pulsating rhythms of soul sacrifice filled the air, his searing guitar solos cutting through the humid August afternoon. Despite his altered state, Carlos played with an intensity that transfixed the massive crowd. The audience, many hearing Santana's music for the first time, was electrified. Their unique blend of Latin rhythms, African beats, and psychedelic rock resonated deeply. As Carlos wailed on his guitar, the audience moved as one, caught up in the raw energy of the performance. For Carlos, the experience was surreal. He later described it as trying to get in there, dealing with the electric snake. Yet somehow, through the haze, he delivered a performance that would become legendary. Santana's Woodstock set, captured on film for the documentary, exposed their music to millions. Almost overnight, they went from San Francisco unknowns to international rock stars. Record labels that had previously ignored them now clamored to sign the band. Their debut album, released shortly after the festival, shot up the charts. However, as the reality of sudden fame set in, Carlos would soon learn that success came with its own challenges. The pressure to maintain their newfound stardom would push the band to their limits, testing Carlos's relationships and resolve in unexpected ways. Fame's dark side. The price of sudden success. Carlos Santana's life changed dramatically after Woodstock. As his popularity soared, he faced new challenges that tested his resilience. The band's schedule became grueling, with non-stop performances and promotional events. They went from playing small clubs to headlining arenas, a shift that left little time for rest or reflection. Santana's success triggered a seismic shift in the music industry. Record labels that had previously rejected ethnic sounds now actively sought out Latin rock bands. His breakthrough proved that American audiences were ready for more diverse sounds, paving the way for future generations of multicultural artists. The constant demands of fame began to wear on Santana. He struggled to maintain meaningful relationships amid the chaos of his new lifestyle. To cope with the mounting stress, he turned to drugs and alcohol. What began as casual use quickly became a crutch, affecting both his personal life and his music. The band's performances started to suffer as they grappled with their own demons. Santana had nightmares about shows where his bandmates were high on stage, fumbling through songs they once played with precision. The magic that had captivated audiences at Woodstock was fading, replaced by the harsh realities of addiction. As years passed, Santana's inner turmoil intensified. He later reflected, "The band's sound deteriorated. Big egos and drugs don't mix well with music." The disconnect between his public image and private struggles grew wider, pushing him to a breaking point. Realizing he was losing not just his music, but himself, Santana sought a way out. He turned to spirituality and meditation, exploring Eastern philosophies as a means to quiet the chaos in his mind. This spiritual awakening offered a glimmer of hope, but the road to recovery would be long and challenging. As Santana worked to rebuild himself and his music, he discovered that finding inner peace was just the beginning of his transformation. The scars of his rapid rise to fame ran deep, and he would face many more obstacles on his path to redemption. The spiritual journey, a double-edged sword. Santana's spiritual journey led him to Sri Chinmoy, an Indian guru promising enlightenment through meditation and devotion. Desperate for inner peace, Santana embraced Chinmoy's teachings, drastically altering his musical direction. The Latin-infused rock that made him famous gave way to experimental jazz fusion sounds, reflecting his new spiritual awakening. Albums like Caravanserai and Love Devotion Surrender marked this shift, puzzling many longtime fans. Critics were divided, with some praising Santana's artistic growth, while others saw it as a betrayal of his roots. Album sales dropped and concert attendance dwindled as Santana's new music and spiritual rhetoric alienated his original fan base. Despite the backlash, Santana remained committed to his spiritual path for over a decade. However, Chinmoy's controlling behavior and interference in Santana's personal life eventually became too much. The guitarist made the painful decision to break ties with the guru and his organization, leaving him emotionally and creatively drained. This tumultuous period wasn't without its benefits. Santana's exploration of jazz fusion and world music elements would later inform his mature style. The meditation practices he learned also remained an important part of his life long after leaving Chinmoy's fold. As Santana emerged from this chapter, he faced the daunting task of rebuilding his career and reconnecting with his audience. The lessons learned during his spiritual odyssey would prove valuable, but the road ahead was far from easy. Little did he know that his greatest commercial challenges were yet to come, as the music industry entered a new era that would test his resilience once again, the lost years fading from the spotlight. The 1980s brought a harsh reality check for Carlos Santana. As new wave and synth-pop took over, his Latin-infused rock struggled to find its place. Album sales dropped sharply, and radio stations ignored his music. Santana found himself playing smaller venues, a stark contrast to his stadium-filling days. In an attempt to stay relevant, Santana experimented with different sounds. He added electronic elements to his music, but these changes often missed the mark with both critics and fans. His 1985 album, Beyond Appearances, barely registered on the charts, and later releases performed even worse. The impact of this career decline was devastating. Once celebrated as a guitar virtuoso, Santana now faced the crushing weight of irrelevance. Depression set in as he grappled with feelings of failure. The music industry's rejection shook his confidence and sense of identity to the core. Financial pressures mounted as Santana's career hit rock bottom in the early 1990s. Dropped by his record label and struggling to secure gigs, the guitarist who once set Woodstock ablaze now played corporate events and small clubs just to make ends meet. It was a humbling experience that tested his resolve. Amidst these dark times, a glimmer of hope appeared. Clive Davis, the legendary music executive who had first signed Santana decades earlier, saw potential in his enduring talent. Davis proposed a bold comeback plan, an album pairing Santana with contemporary pop stars. introducing his iconic guitar work to a new generation. With nothing left to lose, Santana embraced this risky opportunity. As work began on the new project, a faint light appeared on the horizon. However, the road to redemption would be far from smooth. Santana's personal life, already strained by years of career struggles, was about to face its greatest challenge yet. The price of reclaiming the spotlight would be higher than he ever imagined. Supernatural success and personal turmoil. As Santana's career soared with the release of Supernatural, his personal life began to unravel. The album's massive success, while revitalizing his public image, placed immense strain on his marriage to Deborah King. Long tours and extended absences from home took their toll on the relationship, which had already weathered decades of ups and downs in the music industry. Carlos found himself torn between the thrill of his renewed fame and the guilt of neglecting his family. In interviews, he often spoke about the challenges of balancing these two worlds. "Success can give you everything you want, but it can also take away what matters most," he once admitted. As Santana worked through the pain of his failed marriage, he also had to confront questions about his musical future. Could he maintain the momentum of Supernatural, or would he once again fade from the public eye? The lessons learned from his personal struggles would shape his approach to both music and life in the years to come, setting the stage for yet another chapter in the complex story of Carlos Santana. Reinvention and Redemption, Santana's second act. Carlos Santana's career took an unexpected turn as he entered his 50s. The divorce from his wife of 34 years left him emotionally drained, but it also sparked a musical rebirth. In the late 1990s, Santana began collaborating with younger artists, blending his signature guitar sound with contemporary pop and hip-hop. This caught the attention of Clive Davis, who helped craft the album Supernatural. The risk paid off. Supernatural became a global phenomenon, selling over 30 million copies worldwide. The single Smooth topped the charts for 12 weeks, introducing Santana to a new generation of fans. At 52, he found himself more relevant than ever, winning 8 Grammy Awards in a single night. Success brought its own challenges. Santana struggled to balance artistic integrity with commercial demands, admitting, "There were moments when I felt like I was losing myself in the hype." Despite this, he continued to explore new musical territories, delving into jazz fusion, African rhythms, and even classical compositions. His 2002 album Shaman showcased his versatility with diverse collaborations. In his personal life, Santana found love again, marrying drummer Cindy Blackman in 2010. He described their relationship as a source of renewed energy and inspiration for his music. As he entered his 70s, Santana showed no signs of slowing down. He continued to tour extensively, his live performances as electrifying as ever. In 2019, he celebrated the 20th anniversary of Supernatural with a new album and world tour, proving his enduring appeal across generations. Santana's journey from Tijuana clubs to worldwide stages had come full circle. The young boy who once played for tips in seedy bars was now a revered elder statesman of rock. His resilience had secured his place in music history. Yet, Santana remained humble about his legacy. In a 2020 interview, he reflected, "I'm just a guy with a guitar who got lucky enough to touch people's hearts. That's all I ever wanted to do." As he looked to the future, Santana continued to push boundaries, always seeking new ways to express himself through his music. His second act had become a testament to the power of perseverance and the enduring spirit of rock and roll. In 1998, the rock establishment formally recognized Santana's revolutionary contributions when he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In his acceptance speech, he paid tribute to his musical heroes, African-American blues pioneers and Latin jazz innovators who had shaped his unique sound. The honor validated what music fans had known for decades. Santana hadn't just played rock and roll, he had transformed it. Carlos Santana's journey through the music industry was filled with hardship and struggle. He battled addiction and endured career setbacks that threatened to derail his passion for music. Yet even in his darkest moments, Santana found ways to reinvent himself and stay relevant. His willingness to collaborate with younger artists and explore new sounds kept him in the spotlight when many of his peers faded into obscurity. But for Santana, it was never just about fame or commercial success. His music became a unifying force, bridging cultures and generations. Santana once said, "Music is the universal language of peace and love. It has the power to heal and bring people together." This belief drove him forward through decades of ups and downs, shaping not just his career but his entire worldview. Even after all he's been through, Santana's commitment to spreading this message through his art remains unwavering, a testament to the enduring power of his musical vision.